Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Ryan Bailey. I'm the host of the Let's Talk About Skills Baby podcast, the Global Skills Evangelist at MZ, a board member of the Mother's Monday movement, and a mama of 3 kiddos. I'm focused on empowering people to understand the skills they gain through challenging life experiences and transitions, such as parenting, and how those skills relate to navigating their professional life. Equally as important is the reverse, empowering dads and parents to translate their work skills back into the home and caregiving. In our third panel for Father's Friday, our panelists will discuss strategies they've used to integrate their professional and personal lives and step up at home to co-lead their families. Hope you all enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. This is a special day because here we have a magnificent panel of fathers who are going to be joining a great conversation about translating work skills into life skills. My name is Sergio Rosario, and I am the founder and of Soy Super Papa. Soy Super Papa is a nonprofit dedicated to active parenting and education for mostly Latino American fathers. So we focus on the Spanish language, and we strive to break barriers, break that stigma of Latino fathers who carry the stigma for generations. And we are doing it in a big way. We have over 70,000 dads in our group. We have over 100 dads in our page, and every day we talk about parenting and fatherhood. And today, I've also worked with Third Path Institute, where we work with families to better integrate their work and home life. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce you to this panel of amazing human beings. First, I would like to introduce Ben Killoy, Harry Stay, and Iana Murphy. Welcome all. How are you?
I am doing well, and I'm really excited because it's always a good day to talk about fatherhood.
Same here. Great to meet you all. Thanks for being here.
Right. Excited. I agree.
Well, I am every time that I speak with other dads, it feel like it's an opportunity to bond and to really like break out of our shells. I think talking fatherhood is being vulnerable, right? It's opening your heart, it's opening your mind, and it's being also able to say when we're wrong. When I admit to ourselves that we might be wrong, admit to ourselves that we can do better. And without further ado, I would like first of all to thank you for being here. This is a great experience for everyone watching this, so thank you again. I will head to the first part of this panel, which is for every single one of you to introduce yourselves. So I would like Ben to go first. Ben, can you talk to us about yourself? What do you do, and please who you are, and also who you are as a dad?
Thank you, Sergio, for that. And so my name is Ben Cloy. I'm a Marine veteran, husband, and father. I live in southern Wisconsin here. I have 3 kids, 9, 6, and 4. And my story really began out of my own kind of like pit of, I think I'm going to reach the end of my life and not have anybody special to hang around me. And I just felt really vulnerable to the point where I was like, nothing I'm doing right now really matters. And I had to really answer those hard questions and reach down inside. And it was through a lot of growth that I now have 2 podcasts. I focus on helping military dads come home back to their families, because we often come home from war, but we don't really come home emotionally to our families, and helping dads come in and step to their best life. And I also have a second podcast called The Business of Fatherhood, helping dads understand how the same skills you use at work can translate at home. It's often just, you think that it's a different hat when it's really the same hat with the same words, just applied a little bit differently.
Amazing. Thank you, Ben. I think I met you maybe a year ago, and
I believe so too, a little bit at 2.0.
Yes, so it's a pleasure to be here. And, I think this fatherhood community is a community that you might make small talk and then you go really deep into a conversation. So it's a pleasure to be here. I definitely follow your work, and I thank you for your service. I come from a military I'm part of a military family. My wife is active duty officer in the U.S. Army. And for me, I have a lot to learn about military families. It's another aspect of fatherhood and families that, we carry with us. And so I thank you and look forward to learning a lot from you. And I'm a big fan of your work. And now, Harris, how are you today? And can you talk to us about what made you an introduction and what made you get into this community?
Absolutely. So my name is Harris Tay. I always like to introduce myself by breaking down my name. Harris is in America, in the United States. It's a common last name, but my mother's from Panama, Central America. So there it's a common first name. I ever meet somebody with Harris as a first name, I almost know exactly where they were born. My middle name is Kojo. My father's from Ghana, West Africa. So they name you after the day that you were born. So, some cultures, they want to name you what they want you to become. Whereas in his culture, they find out kind of who you are and then they choose what name. So Harris Harrigan was my father. So that's kind of tells you a little bit about just who I am. I'm born in Baltimore. My wife's from Ohio. It's just all about these different cultural experiences. I've been doing diversity and inclusion for about 15 years now, also with a little community organizing in there. And 1/3 of the Dad Genes podcast, it's Dad Genes, Exploring the DNA of Healthy Fathering. And it's a podcast where we just talk about, how we talk about how do we come together as fathers for the betterment of ourselves, then our family, and then ultimately our community.
That is something when you started mentioning, like, where do you come from and how your names, the composition of your name, of your family, your family circle, it's amazing. And I think you must have a lot of different aspects of fatherhood and parenthood coming from such diverse backgrounds and cultures. So it's very interesting. We're going to get on that. I want to go back to that because it's very important for all the people who are going to be watching this to understand that us that are multicultural, we also have to deal with the culture.
Yes.
And also build our own style.
Yeah.
So it's big. It's a work that starts for us since the moment we're going to know we're going to become parents, and it's a continuous work every day. It's an everyday job. And I would like to go back and touch on that. And now we have Yana Murphy, and I would like to ask you, to introduce yourself, your family, and why you got involved in this work.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all. My name is Aina Murphy, and I'm based in San Francisco, California. I'm a father of 2 young girls. Isla is 3 and Capri is 1. And I got involved in Fathering Together and the group through a mutual connection in my network as we were working on some diversity inclusion practices in business. I'm a senior vice president at Yonder Group, based here in San Francisco and covering data center development from Canada through Latin America. So a broad scope with a large amount of travel in different regions, etc. And so as the discussion became, what is it like being an executive while traveling, while raising a family? It was the group of Fathering Together that was an avenue to have those conversations with, and that's how I got involved. So excited about the work everyone's doing here, and excited to be part of this.
Amazing. I have a lot of questions for you. And I think every father who watches this has the same concern what happens when it comes to work-life balance, what happens when it comes to traveling, that bond that we create as fathers when our kids are born, and then you have to have that first long work trip, and how it breaks our hearts, and how do we manage our emotions and all of that. I think we're going to go deeper into that conversation because we definitely have a very diverse panel here, and it's my pleasure to start the panel with the first question. the first question, I am very, and this question is going to be directed to Harris, and I would like everyone to, put your input and your opinion into this question. I would like to hear from everyone, every single one of you as well. Harris, you've been coaching people through very much your career. So let's go to this question. What do you all see is the most important skill a dad needs to be successful? Have you ever been asked that, or did you ask yourself that when you became a father or when you started your project?
So it's a great question, because especially as leaders in some communities, as men, but definitely as fathers, we are expected to always have the answers. But I have to say that the most important skill is actually being able to ask questions, to be inquisitive, to have this inquisitive spirit. There's so much that we realize within the first week, maybe even the first day of having a child. I'm the father of 2 daughters, so that in and of itself, just a completely different experience. It's funny now, people say, "Oh, Harris, don't you want to go again for a boy?" I said, "No, I don't want to learn a different skill set." I always ask questions, and I learn from them. They always ask questions. And even when it comes to having the answers, sometimes they may ask you a question that'll freak you out. If you just ask them, what do they think? The answer that you thought you were going to have to say, they went in a whole different direction. They're talking about, fairies and unicorns, and you were about to break down body anatomy. So you have to ask good questions, because it's more important than having the answers.
Amazing. And what do you think, Ben and Iana? Do you have what is the most important skill set that a father could have?
I'll go next. The one word that popped in when I was listening to Harris was humility, of knowing that you don't have all the answers, and that
Right.
for millennia, we were never designed to do this job alone. There was always people around us. There were people ahead of us, and there was always people behind us. And humility will allow you to ask for help when you need it, and also have the humility to give help when you see someone else in need. And having that community around you and fathering together by the name of this group, that is the biggest lesson that dads need to learn, because we were never designed to do life alone. And for the last 100 years, we've tried to get this out and to get this idea to work. But through the fatherless homes we've seen growing and growing, and through the crisis that we've seen in different areas, humility and asking for help of how I can be a better dad, to the most important title that I've ever have and will ever have in my life, that will be the biggest skill, because it's often our ego and all that stuff that gets in the way from preventing it. And same thing at work. The best leader is the one that's humble, that goes to his team to get the right answers and to bring the right people and to admit, I don't have the right solution, but I think together we can find it.
Yeah, I'd echo that, Ben. I mean, I think I'd probably add that on top of the humility aspect is really being present. And so when you're at home, or when you're with your family, your children, your daughters, your sons, is to be there for them, and give them the time. I think Horace, I picked up on that, right? Asking them the questions, and listening to the questions they have. So I'd maybe round it out with to add to the humility is really the presence, and being there is really an important skill too.
Amazing. I am here listening to all of you, and I think community is another word that I would like to include in the fatherhood dictionary, because it's not very, when you talk about fatherhood, the word community, it doesn't come up right away, right? It's something that we've seen in our ancestors and past family members and past generations, that community is very important in motherhood. But here we are establishing a community through fathering together today, and it's something that is equally as important. Community has changed my life, not only as a father, but as a man, as an individual. As a Puerto Rican, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, living in the US. And then later marrying a US Army officer is also about community. So I think, all of us have that thing in common. Harris, would you like to say something?
Oh no, I'm just affirming. I'm loving everything I'm hearing right now.
So I think, for all of you watching this, take notes. I would love to have a pad right now next to my hand. Unfortunately, I left it over there, and would like to take notes of these words, because this is something that you can add to your fatherhood guide, to your fatherhood book of learnings every day. And it's something that you can implement in your own life and the life of your children. So thank you, Ryan, for taking all these wonderful notes. I know you. Thank you for getting us those notes later on. I would like to direct this question to Iana, and I would like everyone as well to pinch in with their opinion. As a leader in the office dedicated to diversity and inclusion efforts, this question is something that I would love to know, and it's something that I am currently working on with Third Path Institute, and is, who have you looked to for role models and examples of work-life balance, and ensuring all parents get the support they need to follow their career pursuits and raising healthy families? What a question.
Yeah, great question. I think I was very fortunate that I grew up in a large family in the west of Ireland, and one of 9 kids, and right now have 18 nephews and nieces. And so being surrounded by that large family as an upbringing really provided, and I probably didn't realize it at the time, but provided insight as to what a family was, and how to nurture the family environment. So first role models really were my parents. How did they manage 2 careers, their careers, and raising nine children, and all 9 of us through college education? And so that's role model number one. And I think when I became a dad, it was life changing, but I internalized kind of all of the experience that I guess I had watched growing up to help me. And so it's not something I probably paid attention to earlier on in life, but it lived organically within me. So it did. And so that was the first, I would say, set of role models, my parents. And then throughout my career, I've been very fortunate to have been mentored by some fantastic mentors, and all of whom had a solid foundation of, say what it may be, work-life balance, but it was a mantra of putting family first. And really the question of why are we working? We're working to provide. We're working to provide for our family. We're working to provide opportunities, and not losing sight of that. And so that I would say I've been fortunate with mentors in the workplace, and then I've tried to recreate that. And setting up a business in the middle of the pandemic, it was really important for me to provide opportunities, benefits, coaching, mentoring, guidance to my team, and as I was hiring. And so I would say, firstly, I think going back to the question, the first mentors were definitely my parents. The next mentors, professional mentors, and then what did I see as, I guess, really important within that is really living that family first mantra, and being comfortable keeping that communication open. I think right now at home, I know that in periods where work is going to be intense, or I'm going to be traveling for several weeks at a time, is really just creating that awareness and the open comms with my wife and with my kids, and letting them know, hey, Daddy's going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I'll be back, and this is why I'm going, and being open to having those conversations. So I think what I've learned is really the keeping family first and keeping the communication going.
I think this is something very, very, this is a topic that is we have a lot of need to talk about, like, every week, every 2 weeks, every month, there's a certain situation changing around the household, whether it's changing professions, working on work-life integration. So people like yourself are examples of that in the fatherhood community. I wanted to add to your question, how do you treat the different situations that come up in the workplace? Because that is something that could be very diverse. Every situation is very unique. And to us as fathers, we also feel like our situation is the only one. So when you have a lot of people thinking the situation that it's unique, that can also put some stress on the leaders as well, right? How do you foster work-life integration culture at work? What kind of things do you do, like, to put in place? It could be one example of something, but and how do you make people comfortable to come to you as a leader at the workplace? That is something I just wanted to throw out there, just because I feel like we don't ask that question enough.
Yeah, and it's a challenging thing to do. So it is. I think we found during the pandemic working remotely that it was almost even more difficult to do, because we were missing out on these hallway conversations and ad hoc meetings. While I think we got a glimpse into more people's personal lives throughout the pandemics through living our life on video calls and seeing personal situations at home, meeting family members, pets, etc. I think that was an interesting glimpse into personal lives, but we lost that human touch in the office. So we did. I think for me, it's really about constantly reminding. We do weekly all hands with the entire team here, and constantly reminding them about the support that's available, about the community we're building, about the culture, the values that we're living, and reminding us regularly about that. That's been a large part of it, but it certainly has been challenging when we're remote. I've got team members across 10 different countries right now. And I think I've met maybe 30% of them in person. So it's been a huge challenge, and bridging cultures, bridging personal situations. And it really goes down to, again, the transparency and the over communication of what we're striving for, because the work-life balance is challenging.
I agree with the over communication part, especially it seems like right before the pandemic hit. We all know everything was just microwave. What's the quickest way we could communicate? Only send me a text, never give me a call. But what I realized is people will get used to you checking in on them, even if it's a quick 2-minute call. Sometimes I had to tell them it's only going to be 2 minutes. But they start to realize that you really do care. I found it harmful when you may be the type of leader who always, I appreciate you, but after a while it turns into just platitude. So if you're going to tell somebody that you appreciate them, you should try to be as specific as possible. I appreciate you for the energy that you bring into the office. I appreciate you for knocking out that presentation in a unique way. When you get specific, people really do start to lean in. And once somebody trusts you, you can't betray that trust. When they lean in, you have to be consistent. So, and it's the same thing in the household. Especially once you get to know somebody, you've been married for several years, or you're with your partner. After a while, you become roommates, and you start to take each other for granted. You can't do that to your employees, and you for sure can't do it with your children. So yeah, no, I think that's great. I completely agree.
It's amazing how you put it in that perspective, right? Like, we can't do that with our children. How will you do that with your employees, who are other children's parents, right? Who will be affected by anything that goes on within a company or within the workplace. And that, when you put that into that perspective, I think it makes most of us think about if we have been in that situation, or if that we don't want to put anyone else in that situation. And that is something that I think would touch a lot of people who are watching this, and will have everyone asking themselves about that situation. And I think that's a good exercise to do. Put yourselves in that situation, listen to what Anna and Harris have said, and think about it. Think about it from the perspective as a leader. Think about it as a father, and think about it as, put yourself in your kids' shoes, how they would see it, and how that turns and plays into the parenting that they receive, the stress that they are going to receive. It's something that makes us stop for a minute and think. Now we're going to the fourth question. Ben, in doing your podcast and in working with people, I know a lot of work that you do. You touch other people's life constantly, and you provide them skills, and you provide them tools to work with them, and to work with their families. So what are the skills that are easier to translate and which are harder? That's something it's a question that you're getting, a question that's so wide. Like, it can be so many points that we can speak of, but I want everyone, like, take your time and to answer this question, and do it from all the aspects of the work you do.
I think the easiest one happens, we already kind of touched a little bit, is that daunting question you get on a Friday when you come home, and either your wife or your kids ask you, what are we going to do this weekend? And you instantly in your head go, I just got done with the week. I barely had a great answer last week, and you've already hit me with this horrible question again. Well, in this idea, we bring it back to work. At work, often the idea, we've already talked about it, that people won't always look to you to have all the right answers. You're just the guy that helps breathe oxygen as a leader or executive into the different ideas. And it's the same thing at home. So it's not on you to have the ideas of what to do this weekend. Let your kids have the keys to the bus, is essentially what I'm saying. Let them help craft the adventure, and call it an adventure. That's a big word that sometimes we think of really complicated. It's got to be Grand Canyon, Rocky Mountain type stuff. But it doesn't. It doesn't have to be something that's sold to Gander Mountain. It can be as simple as something, we go on Razor Scooter and we call them scooter adventures, and we just find a paved path, and it's like we went to Disney World. And it's something that they often get like super excited for. And it's just getting them to like let them lead a little bit. It's the same idea what you do at work. You want your team members to have those little moments where they take something and run with it. Flip that on its head and bring that home and let your kids run with it. Now, my kids are young and they've always got these ideas, and it's always going to be cheaper and easier if you let them come up with that idea than you do. And it's almost happens because we think we have to have the right answer. And we probably feel this feeling at work. But if you've grown as a leader at work, you understand it's not on you. And it's that same kind of feeling of we need to know it all. And it's that part we talked about earlier, the humility and the ego, that are really going to get you into that, like, I've got to have all the answers, but you don't. All they need is your time. Kids spell love, Time. They need your presence, and they need your ability to just know they care about them and that you're there to listen. So, and that's a lot of the same stuff that we use at work. Even like, there's just so much of the different like words that we use of like integrity and different things and core values. Those are some of the same things you want to teach your kids. Honesty, courage, integrity, supportive. Like, these are conversations that you could go on a one-on-one trip with your kids to go off and get ice cream or something and have a conversation of, what does honesty look like in your life? How does it show up at school? What are some challenging situations? These are the exact same conversations you're having with employees at work. And it's just bringing it home. And here's the best part. We're not raising kids, we're raising adults. And when you raise adults with these values and these ideas that were nurtured by their father, this is how you create an adult that understands how to go out in the world with their own value, with their own love internally. They don't look for other people to validate them. And those are the types of kids that have the courage when they turn 18 to like, I got an idea that thinks it's going to make a big impact in the world. And they go out and do it.
Amazing. Oh, man. Now, Ben, thank you. I think that answer is like, you're so direct about it. I can notice you practice what you preach every day. I can feel that about you by hearing you speak. I would like to ask you this question. It's something that I just came up with right now. How do you see the future of fatherhood with all of these tools that we have now, with an amazing organization like Fathering Together? I wish when I started my organization and my movement 4 years ago, I dream of something like that. I dream of something like this, and I am so grateful now for it. I wish I had it 4 years ago. But how do you see the future of fatherhood, and what kind of role do you see yourselves playing? I know you, each and every one of you, are playing one, but how do you see fatherhood growing, or have you seen it grow? And of course, with the community being the primary, the primary character and the primary role.
For me, that question goes back to what I learned with military dads is military dads have lived a rich life. We've traveled, we've seen hurt, we've seen pain, we've felt pain. And that's a lot of life experience in a short amount of time. And now that's richness not in wealth, that's richness in experiences. And a lot of what kids and adults don't have this day is a rich life. They don't have a deep view on very many things that are important in this world. And as a dad, you have a rich life in your experience, whether it's good, bad, hard, doesn't really matter how your life was formed. Your life has stories and experiences. And what I believe as a dad, when we come home to our kids and help them understand who they are, we can help gift them the richnesses of our lives as dads. And those richnesses will grow within their life. And we're not measuring. To me, fatherhood is the ability to come home, connect with your kids, and not just create something that your kids go out and impact with. We're talking about something that's generationally changed by measured in not decades, but centuries. Like, I fully believe a dad that comes home to his family, helps his kids understand where they fit into the world, is not measured by the decades that they impact, but by the centuries of change that they were able to change by maybe breaking the chain of broken families or breaking the chain of broken marriages within their family that's been going on for 50 years. That type of change, that changing of the family tree, that is really how you can create something that is a ripple that the universe really can't help but ride the wave with. And it takes dads to intentionally come home and lead their families. We see it all over the country of where kids are looking for leadership, and they'll find it in any way, fashion, whether it be a bad relationship in high school or a gang on a street corner in a big city. They're looking for leadership, and in fatherhood is that what naturally they're looking for, but most dads don't realize that it's there. And so what we're talking about, what we're doing together, is we are literally creating a generation of kids that understand where their value comes from. It doesn't come from Instagram. I always say I have 2 daughters, and I'll consider it a success if they know they don't get their value from likes and posts and love on Instagram, that it comes from the inside. And no matter what the outside world says about you, it matters what you say about yourself. And to me, that richness right there, that love that they can have internally, that's the kind of love that's going to make a really big impact in this world. And it's just going to take dads to come home and be who we need to be. And what we already know as dads that are here, that fatherhood is one of the most important titles that we'll ever have and the most important job we'll ever get.
Oh, that's amazing. I would have to say that I think the future for fatherhood, it's really going to be that fathers are going to become scholars of fatherhood. Like we're gonna, and it's happening now. Just like you said, if you would have known about, or if you would have had a father together type of experience, you would have felt that much more prepared and ready. I see us just leaning in. I had a friend, one of my co-hosts, Diaz, who's a part of the the Dad Jeans podcast, and he was on South by Southwest. South by Southwest had a parenting event, just to put that in perspective. And one of the women that was on the panel, she said, when the pandemic hit, all these businesses started saying, hey, we'll give you the time and the energy you need to parent. But then she brought up the question, but how many of us actually learned and were trained to be parents or to be supportive as managers to people in a pandemic? You know what I mean? Just giving an attaboy isn't necessarily, going to do it for some people. So I think this notion of actually becoming scholars of what does it mean to be a parent, what does it mean to be a father in the information age is where we're headed. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yana, would you like to say something about this future of fatherhood? What do you see is the future? What do you feel it's the way to get there and the tools that we have now? The mic is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, how do you follow that? I think I've even learned a lot just from the conversation alone here today, and I couldn't agree more with Ben and Horace. I think I've really picked up on and agree with this community and the community that's there, and so I would probably add that engaging with your partner, wife, spouse, and discussing what your experiences were like being raised is really important. And I will say, you know, I grew up in Ireland. My wife grew up in the US. We had very different upbringings, and so my natural tendency as a dad was to rely on the way I was raised. My wife's natural tendency was to rely on the way she was raised. And so, what I would say is in the future of parenting and even the now is really about continuing that conversation and agreeing together around what the path is, or what the boundaries are going to be, or what the alignment is going to be around how to raise families and how to be better dads, parents together. And so I think it ties into a little bit of what Ben and Harris spoke about there, but I would just add that perspective too, given that the world is getting smaller and all of these different experiences about being raised or coming together more closely. And I think we'll continue to as we grow in that kind of meld of cultures. And so that's maybe what I would add to that. But I totally agree with what Ben and Harris have shared.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for opening your hearts and your minds to this conversation and to the community that's watching this panel. I would say fatherhood is a decision that you make every day when you wake up. Fatherhood is something that's embedded in our DNA, something that we need to be proud of. And that is something that your kids will tell you every day in their actions and the way they look at you and the way they play in your drawings and all things. Fatherhood is reflected. So I would like to thank every one of you. I also would like to show you my shirt. Look at this shirt. It says more than a necktie right here. So you can go to Fathering Together and get this shirt. It's an amazing shirt. And it has something in the back. But I was wearing the blazer to look a little bit more like a moderator today. But it's a very cool shirt. I can't wait to just walk with it in public and carry the message with me, you know, on my shirt. And also, please feel free to use it on your social media. Hashtag Fathering Together, hashtag More Than a Necktie, and let's carry the message of fatherhood. Let's carry the message that fathering together, it's something that we do every day with every single one that's around us. So I want to say thank you. And starting in a few minutes, we'll have our final panel that brings together several of our international dad friends. Please check fatheringtogether.org/Fathers Friday for more details about the work Fathering Together is doing, the Black Fathers Foundation is doing, Soy Super Papa is also doing. We are helping all dads build stronger relationships with their kids and lead with their fatherhood identity. I want to say thank you again to every single one of us. Thank you, Iana. Thank you, Harris. Thank you, Ben. Thank you to Brian Anderson, who had this amazing panel here with us. I would like to say, please check out Fathering Together. And of course, if you follow social media, you know they are in every social media channel. I don't know about Brian doing a TikTok, but I know they're in every single channel. I don't know if that would be kind of, Brian, we have to see your skills in TikTok, but check them out on Facebook, Fathering Together, fatheringtogether.org, on Instagram, Fathering Together, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And stay tuned to the amazing content that Fathering Together is doing and is bringing for the community. Thank you everyone for being here. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you all.